big bear. This is what makes adrenaline pump more than anything in the planet. Actually, now you can imagine what it felt like that day. That thing was running up that bank looking for us. You picture out something like this looking for you.
Yeah.
Ew, it sucks.
Looks like he's coming our way. Hopefully we can scare him away. Still at the ranch. I'm leaving probably I'll probably leave in about an hour and a half, I think. I got all my gear ready to go. I got Adventure Puppy has a cool cot bed set up for camping. It's going to be quite interesting, right? Where I am going, the timber is a little different than here on Vancouver Island. Vancouver Island, to take her into the woods and keep her with me would virtually be nearly impossible, because it is so dense with frickin' rainforest jungle. I would have to have her on a leash and be going around this branch, under that branch, over that log, her over this log, tree, fallen branch, shallal, crap forever. It just would not work. So, and she's quite young, so I need her running off and getting gutted by a pack of wolves. Or a cat or whatever. So where I am going though, is the place where that antler, I swear on my life, that antler was left intentionally on that trail behind me. And I'm gonna go there. And it's big, huge, never logged before, fir, cedar trees, steep slopes, and very prominent trails, game trails. So it'll be really easy for her to stay right alongside of me, and I can look around and do what I'm doing without being all snarled up and tangled up with her. So it's going to work out quite well, but I will not be letting her run loose. It's too much of a risk. There was a real big pack of wolves going bonkers there a little while ago, but I pretty well took care of that, I think. Past few years. So it should be pretty good. But anyway, I have my old phone again still, and I was thumbing through it this morning, and I just cannot believe how many unread emails are just in this freaking phone right here. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to get to these older ones right now while I'm here this morning. This email, there's 2 emails. This might be lengthy. Second one is on here first. First one is below it, so I'll start with the first one. Damn thing stole my joy. My nephew and his buddy shot it. And that is the title of this email. Hi Steve, I would like to keep my anonymity. Anonymity. Say that 10 times. Fast. I don't want any of those 4-letter group assholes bothering my family. My name is blank blank. I'm 55 years old. I live in Central Ohio. My family is originally from Southern Ohio, but my dad moved us for his work when I was young. Some of my family still live there, and every year since I was 10 years old, my dad would pull his camper down at my cousin's place and we would run deer. We would deer hunt for the week. I've continued this tradition when I got older. Back in '98, me and my brother and cousins built a 2-room cabin up on a ridge about a half mile from my cousin's house. While we were building it, my nephew was about 10 years old and was bugging my brother about turkey hunting. My brother gave in and gave him a 410 and told him to just go down the hill a little way, but to stay in sight. About an hour later, we heard his gun go off, and as we ran to him, he was dragging a long beard up the hill. No way. That's awesome. I say that because the kid is a natural. My brother says he was born with a bow and arrow in one hand and a rod and a reel in the other. Fast forward to 2002. I had a friend that asked if I could guide him and his brother on a turkey hunt. These guys were new to turkey hunting, so my nephew went along to call for one of my buddies. We went about 2 hours before daylight. It took me and my partner about an hour to reach the mine reclaim where I like to set up. Right at daylight, I noticed the woods hadn't come alive. Just then, I think, my partner adjusted his position, and inadvertently his box call in his vest bumped against the tree he was sitting against. Right after that, this thing let out a roar that was so loud it lasted 10 seconds or so. A lot of people describe that roar lasting 10 to 15 seconds. Time 10 seconds and try to exhale screaming. Scream for 10 seconds. I had a leafy wear face mask on, and the material of the leaves on it moved out of my peripheral vision. About 5 seconds later, there was another roar over towards where my nephew and his buddy was. I looked at my partner, and his eyes were bulging. He said, "What the hell was that?" I said, "I don't know, but I think these 12 gauges aren't enough." We walked back to the cabin, and my partner said that had to be the fastest animal alive to run way over there and roar again, and it dawned on me that there were 2 animals. Back at the cabin, I asked my nephew, away from the other guys, if he heard that roar. He looked up at me and said, "Was that you guys messing with me, Uncle Blank?" I told him, "No, sir." So like tens of thousands of other people, as we got back home, I started researching loud roars in the woods. And as I was reading, I got dizzy. My memories flooded back. When I was 16, I went down to turkey hunt, and there was one spot where 3 4-wheeler paths come together, where I see this tree structure. A little ways past that, there was a 4-inch tree twisted and broken about 7 feet off the ground. I thought that was strange, but I kept going, and I smelled a dead animal. I looked around, didn't see anything. All of a sudden, I felt like something bad was going to happen. So I ran for about 200 yards, and as I got back to the pasture, a nut of hard woods feeling went away. I must have been feeling one away. I was staying with my cousin at the farm, and later when his dad came home, I asked if he had a dead cow back there towards the reclaim. And his eyes darted back that way, and he hesitated before he said, "Whenever you see all the cattle up here against the barn, that I should just hunt here close." I asked him why. He paused again like he was thinking something up, and he said, Well, the birds will follow the cows around and scratch the manure for grain and bugs. So I took his advice, and when you know it, he was right. I killed several toms this way. Excuse me, for a few years after that, only 3 more times at the same spot I got that feeling and would run. After researching that in 2002, I didn't go hunting again. In 2008, now young man, my nephew and his friend went to cabin to turkey hunt. They got there late, so they just went to sleep. Sometime in the night, my nephew woke up to use the bathroom. When he didn't see his friend in his bunk, he went out on the closed-in porch, and there was his buddy down on one knee, pointing his shotgun out the door. He asked, blank, my nephew, "What is that by the porta-john?" Blank said he looked out the door, and there was something on 2 legs. There was a head higher, and damn near twice as wide as the porta-john. It was swaying back and forth. He told his buddy to keep an eye on it, and he'd be right back. Luke then got his gun and put a number 4 shot 3.5-inch mag in his gun and stood above his friend, pointing the gun out the door. Luke said, he yelled, "You better get out of here or we will shoot." He said the thing didn't make a noise for a minute or so, and then it let out a huff. Luke told his buddy, on 3, shoot. They both shot it. He said it took off running towards the east and jumped off a 45-foot high wall. They checked the next day and found where it landed. No blood or hair. The distance of that shot was approximately 30 yards. They couldn't make out any details on the thing. It was in the shadows, except Luke said he's seen long hair hanging on its elbows. Thanks to your videos and my own conviction last year, I decided to go back to the cabin and take my 15-year-old stepson turkey hunting along with my nephew. We got there past legal shooting time, so we just went out and set up a blind for the next morning. I was very apprehensive the next morning, walking with my stepson to the blind in the dark. We got back to the blind without incident. Once in the blind, we just got settled and quiet, and then, about 30 yards to my north, something bipedal got up and took 4 long steps away from us. I was done. The next morning, my nephew said he would take my stepson just over the hill a few yards from the cabin. I said, no, I don't think it's a good idea. But my son begged me, and like an idiot, I gave in. About a half hour after daylight, they came back and said 3 trees fell around them. There was no wind. Sorry this is so long. I've sat on these events for years and never considered sharing until I saw your videos. You're doing a great public service, Steve, and appreciate you. Keep up the good fight. Yeah, you too, man. I'm glad you wrote in. Sorry it took a while to get to it. But I will get to all of them. I'll get to every single one of them. Now here's your second email that came in after the first one. Steve, this is blank blank again. I just sent you an email. Forgot one thing. Just recently, me and my nephew was talking about whether or not he would be going back down to the cabin turkey hunting or not. I told him he should stay away from there. My 78-year-old father overheard this and asked why. My dad is a no-nonsense guy, and I was afraid if I told him about the shit going on in those hills, he would say I was crazy. So I told my nephew to tell Grandpa why. Blank asked my dad if he had seen any Sasquatch while growing up, and I was floored. When he said that when he was 12 years old, his friend from school asked him if he wanted to go pick raspberries. So the kid's father picked him up, and they went just down the road about 2 hollows over from my cabin. They were halfway up the ridge when the kid's dad came running past my dad and told him to run. My dad said his buddy was being carried by his dad as they ran past him. My dad then looked up the hill and he said there was an 8-foot giant hairy man grunting and throwing sticks and leaves up in the air. Let's read that part again. Giant hairy man. My nephew asked my dad what happened. My dad said he outran both his buddy and his dad. They got the hell out of there. So those things have been in those hills for generations. Sorry I didn't send this with my original email. Steve, there's probably more I'm forgetting. I'm ashamed to say that I just sold some of my hunting gear. I'm out, brother. Stay safe in those mountains. Blank. I left all the names out, man, even though you had them typed in. Yeah, I mean, nobody can blame you for being out, being done. Many people do the same, right? It's a bit much to swallow. It's a bit much to deal with. It's a shitty deal. I'm glad everybody is safe. I wonder if anybody else has been around near that area and had more happen. I wonder, right? But there you go. There's more members of the club and no return. The club's huge. And I don't think there's one member that has to join intentionally, right? And there is another one. Let's get some voices heard. More. Appreciate you sending that in, man. You got anything else? Think it might help you or somebody else, send it to us, alright? My name is Robert, and I'd like to share a story that took place when I was a young teenager down at Montgomery Bell State Park in Dixon, Tennessee. I would do a lot of bass fishing when I was a kid. My dad and I and brother, there's no punctuation at all in this one, alright you guys? My dad and I and brother, we went all the time to places like Center Hill, Lake Percy, Priest Lake. And when I was a kid, I would go down and get a day permit and get in a flat-bottom boat and fish all day. My mother would drop me off, and one day I went with a friend, and I was using a topwater lure that would go possibly 3 or 4 feet deep. When we were in shallow water and I made a miscast, and my fishing lure landed on the bank. So instead of pulling it real hard, thinking I would get it hooked on something, we went over to the bank to retrieve the lure. And the closer we got to the bank, we were in a small cove, and we saw Bigfoot tracks at this lake at Montgomery Bell State Park in Tennessee. So it came from one bank through the water with 2 steps, then stepping out of the water onto the other side of the bank. There was a branch on the bank, then it stepped on and it crushed the stick or the branch. And the footprint was very long. And the print of the foot was deep, 3 to 4 inches on this part of land. So when we first saw this, we couldn't believe it. We'd always heard stories from older men who would hunt/fish down at Montgomery Bell State Park in Tennessee and Dixon County, White Bluff, Tennessee area. And I have to say, as a young teenager, educated martial arts growing up with Dad, who was a Marine recon, myself as a kid growing up learning self-defense, learning to fight, spent a lot of time learning Aikido. So to my personality, there wasn't much I thought I was afraid of. With respect to all people, I respect people. But that day, at that point in my life, at that exact time, I will have to say that the hair stood up on my arms and my body everywhere. And my adrenaline flowing made my attention span at that point. I guess you could say, eyes in the back of my head. We left the lake that day. In all, we were just speechless, realizing something this large walks the earth. Not in desperation, but perhaps but in a way that really doesn't bother anyone. I've never heard any stories having anyone ever being bothered. But on the way home that day, never having said a word to one another, and it was one of the most gratifying days of my youth, I think, looking back, I've ever had. I'm now 57 years old, and I remember this day like it happened yesterday. Anyway, this is my story. And I think lots of people have to be sighted in order to believe something like this. They may have to see it to believe it. So anyway, I like your videos, love the backdrop. It's absolutely heaven where you are, and these videos, Thank you, take care, keep making these videos for the people. And I will, man. You keep sending in your truth. If you come across more. This channel is nothing without people like you, alright? But, yeah, it is something else, isn't it? It's something else when you get slapped in the face with the real, true facts, isn't it? Right? I know exactly how you're feeling and what you're trying to get across to us. It's something else, right? It's like, holy shit, no way. And then my brain, well, you know what my brain does? Then it goes to, why are we being lied to? Why are we being lied to? Right? And then they can't contain the facts so much, so they wrangle up a handful of douchebags that semi-admit to the truth, but change the truth around. You can't tell me those guys don't deserve a swift kick in the nuts, right? You can't tell me they do not deserve that. I know, it's not the way to go apparently, but tell you what, if there was a lineup to do it, I'd pay heavy to be the first one in that lineup to give that boot in the balls. Anyway, let's get on with it. More people to be heard. Alright. Hello, sir. Please don't use my name. I am blank and I go by blank on YouTube. The picture's from a friend who had the actual encounter. Let's call him John. He, John, gladly gave me the picture. And I played around with the zoom and color on some to see what I could make out in them, but nothing else. The one picture is original. I've had this picture for a while, but was too scared to share. The First Nation person has seen the photo and stated to me it was in fact the real deal. The only reason I'm writing you, sir, is that I believe people need to see this. I overheard a conversation between two friends and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. These guys don't get on YouTube and as far as I know have a very limited knowledge of Sasquatch. John had taken a lady friend for a hike near Lake Jocassee, South Carolina, heading into the Blue Ridge Mountains into North Carolina. This area is about as rough as we have. They had been walking for around an hour. John said he had that I'm being watched feeling for a while, but wasn't too worried because he had brought his .44 Magnum with him. They stopped walking so he could take a leak. John walked over to a tree slightly off the trail and relieved himself on or near the side of a tree. Big mistake. That's when the Sasquatch screamed at him with that high-pitched, scary-to-death tone. It then followed up with a deep bass roar that you could feel in your chest. Grabbed a tree, not sure the size, and was shaking it back and forth violently. Somehow they're able to get one picture, one only. Maybe she already had the camera up and it was just luck, I don't know either. John stated they ran as hard and as long as they could back. They weren't followed as best he could tell. John said he never even thought to pull out his pistol, just to run. Whatever he saw scared him bad. That's not a black bear, not a regular human either. You can see the hair almost like glistening. I can make out a right nipple, and you can see the cut in its chest. Long muscular arms, flat bulbous nose, no neck, dome head, etc. You get the point. Is all the truth to the best of my knowledge and retold as heard. Here's a photo. Y'all decide. Steve, please share the photo. I know a lot of people want to see. I would love to hear from you on this. Sasquatch's hide and seek champion just got reset. Thank you for all you do. Alright, I'll share it. This looks familiar. I think we may have received this possibly. Let me see. I'm going to save this into my phone because then I will have to pull it from my phone into Dropbox once I get online. Saved. Alright, I'll share those photos. Everybody, there you go. Take for what you will or leave it. That's a pretty steady photo. I cannot see any of the details you mentioned myself. Just looking at it zoomed in like this. I can't. I'm glancing at it right now and it looks like a stump. That's just me. But anyway, share it, man. Share it. Share it, share it. Thanks for sending it in. More odd photos. With a scary encounter from people who are in the club of no return. Once you know, you know. There's no going back. Just had a weird encounter. Hello, Steve. My name is Andy from West Virginia. When I was 15, me and my good friend had decided we were going to walk the train tracks for about 12 miles to a friend's house. Sometime later, I told him we needed to head back before dark. As we headed back about dusk, we both said we felt followed and being watched. We stopped, looked around a bit, but no luck. Towards the end of our walk back, we crossed a bridge and decided to take a shortcut through the woods. And that's when my friend stopped dead in his tracks and grabbed my shoulder. I heard him say, "Who's that?" When I looked, there was a black outline of a human, just solid black, in front of us, blocking the trail. It froze. Then it moved right at us, fast, right through the brush and briars, moving. I just bolted right down the trail as fast as I could. We ran through the woods until we got to town, jumped some fences, never stopped till we got to the first street light. We stopped, and there was nothing. No cars, no people, just dead silence. We looked at each other for a little. We looked at each other a little relieved, and all of a sudden, a whole flock of birds came bursting out of the trees we were in front of. Flight mode kicked in. Excuse me, I ran about 1.5 miles to my house. I never stopped until we were in the basement. It was an apartment in the basement. We never talked about it again. But whatever it was fast and very stealthy. You could not hear it move. I've never been back to that spot since. I do spend a lot of time in the outdoors. I never let it ruin my life. But when I'm outdoors, I always think about the stuff outdoors, that is, watching us. And we never noticed it. Thanks for giving people a place to share their experiences. And have a great day. And you too. Sorry it took so long to get to it, but I got to it. Excuse me. Alright, this one looks a little different. It's funny when you're a kid how you can run for so long in adrenaline, right? I think if I ran 100 yards right now, I'd probably fall over. I can hike forever. I don't think I can run as fast. I can't run fast for too long, I don't think. I haven't had to try it. Real clear Sasquatch picture. Steve, here's a pic from Ohio. A lady has been coexisting with these guys on her property for a while. Recently they've been entering her home, so she set up a trail camera in her kitchen. This is what she caught. Blank Blank on YouTube is seeking help from anyone who knows how to stop these guys from entering this lady's home. They make a terrible mess in her home and she is scared. Thank you so much for all you do, Christina. And then here's another email. Steve, please listen to the story. There are problems sometimes. Clear pick at the end of the video. One day I'll tell you my own stories from the swamps in Florida, but for now this lady needs help. Christina. Alright, well, you guys heard me say it before in the past, carpenters had good luck helping people. And this is one hell of a weird photo. I don't know what I'm looking at there. Could be anything. This photo could be anything. Let's face it. This photo could be anything. And the house looks absolutely intact. The shelves are stocked. The cupboards aren't open. Stuff's on the shelf. It looks like, I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's a photo of something that looks hairy or furry. Could be a dog, could be anything. So obviously if she can get that thing on a terror camera once, and they're in her home, quote, all the time, making a mess, she should probably have about 10,000 photos by now. Wouldn't you think? That's just thinking, common sense question to ask with the information you shared in the email. But anyway, shared. I shared it. If this is going on, somebody else knows of it. I don't know. Follow up. Email some more. Emails the rest of her trail cam photos. She set up the camera. She didn't just get one. There's no way. Not if they're in the house all the time. Right? Alright, here we go. What's this? This is red. Alright, give me a second. This old phone has unread ones all over the place. Alright, here's another one. February 25th, 21 is when this is sent in. Hello, Steve. My name is David Hayes, and I'm a 54-year-old husband, father, and grandfather. I also served in the Navy straight out of high school for a few years. I had 2 strokes in the last 2 years, and my working days were finished. I have nothing to lose now, and while not as in your face as a lot of encounters, mine was one I'll never forget. Excuse me. Enough of me. I want to thank you for doing what you're doing for those out there who have no place to go to tell their story. This is very important. People need to tell someone to help start the process of getting over the experience. To keep it to yourself will not aid in recovering. Well, I haven't had the unfortunate experience of actually seeing one of these freaking things. I've had multiple experiences in the woods that have no explanation. The worst of which I'm going to relay to you and your followers now. I'm hoping it helps someone with a similar situation to understand and hopefully get over their own experiences. This all took place on one of the longest mountain ranges here in central PA. There's a mountain ridge called the Bald Eagle Ridge that runs southwest to northeast and runs for about 60 miles. It's the last mountain ridge before hitting the Appalachian Plateau to the west. It's a very beautiful part of the country and the state of Pennsylvania. In these mountains, there are very few homes. Most of the population of the state lives in the valleys and not in the mountain tops. So our mountains are pretty secluded. So the east part of the state and small pockets in the outlying areas are populated, and the rest of the state is mainly mountains and forest with no human population. About 10 years ago, my wife and I, along with my 25-year-old son, our 2 grandchildren, and one of their friends, all the children were between 8 and 10 years old, all went for a walk at the reservoir that supplies all the drinking water for this area, Central PA, USA. The reservoir is set back about a mile from the main road, RT 150, and now is an area for walking and hiking. But back then it wasn't used by many people at all. It was formed from damming the creek that runs down through this valley. The small lake that was formed is beautiful and is abundant with fish and surrounded with the usual wildlife, but most of all it's secluded. Let me first say that until having 2 strokes in the last 2 years, I was an avid hunter and fisherman and taught my children and grandchildren to get out and enjoy what nature we have. So, with that being said, my son and I were both armed, as we always were, to protect us from any animals that may not have the best intentions. We started out a little later than planned, but things were going great, so far uneventful. We walked about a mile or 2 up into the mountain and was on our way back, about 3/4 of a mile from the truck, and by this time it was about 9 p.m. and dark. Everyone had a flashlight. We always take them for reasons like this, and we were here before at the same time with nothing to be concerned about. So it was business as usual. We were all carrying on and enjoying the outdoors and the walk. I want to make it clear now that I got a very uneasy-like feeling for no reason. I wish I could explain it, but I can't. I know that doesn't make sense, but I just had a very weird feeling. Then I heard what sounded like heavy footsteps faintly, but I could hear them over the sounds my family were making in front of me on the trail. It sounded like something big walking above us, straddling the side hill to our left. It's a very steep hill, and the trail we were on was cut from into it for humans to walk on. My son was in the lead, followed by the 3 children, my wife and then myself bringing up the rear. My son stopped, which stopped the rest of us, and he said, "Listen." "Dad, do you hear that?" I was already listening hard, and again I could hear what sounded like someone walking to our left on the steep mountainous side of the trail. I'm not going to lie, it startled me. But after gathering my senses, I shrugged it off as a deer or some other animal and told my son to keep moving. But him, myself, and the rest of the group were now focused on what was following us in the upper side of the trail. We were all moving forward and not panicked, just focused. Just then, I heard what sounded like a very large branch being broken from a green tree. My son and the rest of the family also heard it. Then it sounded like a tree or a large boulder was thrown, and it was loud. It was very loud. I've heard trees falling over from wind in the woods while hunting, and that's not what this noise was. There was no wind that night, and it was very still, and the woods were silent up until this point. When we heard what sounded like we then heard what sounded like a very heavy person running. This was all happening 40 or so yards up the steep hillside to our left. At this point, I calmly said to my son, who was now shining his light on the mountainside, trying to find what had made that noise, "Start moving." We all started to walk fast to get back to the truck. All the flashlights were focused on that side hill, but we could see nothing but trees, and the rest of the walk was uneventful. But the whole way back to the vehicle, everyone was on edge, and our senses were all on high alert. I don't know what made that noise that night, but I know it wasn't. I've been in the woods long enough to know what the sounds are, and what we all heard that night was a deliberate made noise. If I had to make a guess, I would say something ripped a tree from the ground and threw it. That's what it sounded like to me. The rest of the way back to the truck was uneventful. We saw no eye shine and heard nothing else the rest of the way back to the place that we parked the truck. We no longer walked there after dark. And even in the daytime, we are on high alert. There are many people who walk there now since they turned into a public walking trail and mountain bike area, and we have had no other incidents while walking there. You can give my name, I don't care what people think of me. I'm at that age now where I don't care. I know what I heard and felt that night. My whole family still talks about it. I'm in the minority in that I was not alone when this happened, and my family still brings it up and talks about it to this day. Thank you for giving us a place to tell our experiences. It's making a difference. You are making a difference. You just made a difference. And make sure you, David, make sure you share this video with your family, right? I'm pretty certain they know. Obviously, they know they're not crazy. They know what they heard and experienced, all you together. And thank God you didn't all stop talking to each other, which has been a pattern with people having experiences. But make sure you share this video with them so they know at least there is tens of thousands of other people just like them. They're innocent, brave, safe, intelligent people who had these experiences and they didn't ask for it, right? Members of the club. I wonder why they do that. I wonder why for a lot of things in life, actually, not just that, but many things. But I just I don't know why they insist on being near and tormenting human beings randomly. I don't get it, but it's so common. It's so common. Obviously, I've said it before. I'll say it a million times. It just frustrates me, right? Because it is such hard truth. In fact, there's absolutely no denying it. We're at the point, you have to admit it, at this point, looking into it and seeing how many people see, know, live it, experience it. Why? Why are we still being misled? The majority of the population. Why? Right? My puzzle's really starting to close in this last year a lot more tighter than it has been previous, that's for sure. And it's funny, right when I get to the point where I'm ready to spill a whole pile of crap that I think I know, then I will get a few more emails from people I highly respect, and it'll throw a little bit of a whipper into a few of my puzzle pieces, and I got to remove them and look for another place to put them. But that's how you put a puzzle together, right? So as long as you keep going, the puzzle gets filled in and you put it together and you find those pieces. You just can't quit, and you cannot be sidetracked and pushed to the side and misled by some absolute freaking sleazy douchebag, right? Anyways, I know I've probably mentioned that a little bit lately. I used to go on those rant tangents a couple years ago more often than not, only because I was having the things that these past groups of people have done to people really have made me concerned, angry, and I've had a past bad, not a very colorful history with bullies that were brought into my life without me having any choice as a child, and I just cannot stand bullies. I cannot stand to see those abusive bullies getting away with what they do and never being exposed. It's not fair, it's not right, and so any of you that might lose your patience with me voicing my opinion about it the odd time, that's why. It frustrates me. I'm frustrated. I want to round them up and let everybody who they have violate the shit out of them in a way. You know what I mean? It's just so unfair. I don't watch television. I kick any Bigfoot organization, anything related to any of those groups, I do not have a tenth of a second for, so I do not know if they are even being watched anymore. I haven't a clue. I do not give them any time. Zero of my time. Except obviously I'm ranting about them right now, right? They did a lot of damage to all of you. Right? Innocent people. Anyway, bite my lip on that one. I gotta go pack my stuff and hit the road. We're going into the mountains. We're going in. We're going to a place that has been spooky for me for many years. But it's funny, this place I'm going to, once I get to a certain point, then it gets to be real big boulders in that timber. Real steep, big boulders. And excuse me, and that seems to be where I get my highest pressure peak when I'm getting that far up the mountain. And it's all timbered. It's all timbered. Big timber. Big timber. Big boulders. I'll videotape it. I've videotaped in the past, I'm quite certain, but it's going to be interesting to have the dog with me once I get to that part of the mountain where I kind of go, all right, this is as far as I'm going. You know, one time I did go farther. One time, and I went, wrapped around the mountain more and I went as high as I could to get above this huge timber patch, and it was monstrous cedar trees. Huge cedar trees and fir trees, spruce, never been logged. And I couldn't concentrate on hunting. I wanted to hunt down through the timber, thinking maybe that is the spot. And I went past my limit, pressure limit, and I was just too busy looking 8-10 feet up the timber on both sides of the trees and looking behind me, looking around. And I lost concentration on being a stealthy hunter, and I basically did a hike down the mountain, got out of there. I never went back since. And there's a lot of action around there, a lot of action surrounding that mountain that other people have witnessed. And I've witnessed and shown you guys videos, so I'm babbling. I don't even remember where it was. I think I caught it last night. It could have been on a message somewhere or an email. You gotta understand, you guys. I get thousands. Okay, and somebody noticed and they sent it to me for fun. I'll post it right now. A picture of what they said was an old man behind me right now. Do you see him? Look close, and I'll show you the picture. And once I show you the picture, you see it. It's a long beard, perfect cheekbone, eye socket, nose, the whole 9 yards, right? It's funny how many people have noticed things like that. And it's funny, when I was up in the mountains in Pembroke Valley, and that big Mount Curry's across behind me, and everybody could point out that Sasquatch face in the snow and the rock slides in the face of the mountain. It's another one. A lot of people saw that and screenshot and sent it to me. But here's the latest. I'll be back. Next I'll be back, I'll be using the GoPro. Hopefully I can get time and service enough to share with you guys some emails, and I'm going to sit right down on that timber where those boulders are with the dog, and I'm going to share voices from right there while we are looking for shed antlers from deer. Be back later.